Hello, I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. This series of podcasts is aimed at financial planning professionals and also those who are looking to enter the financial planning profession. We will be talking during the podcast about all things Certified Financial Planner certification related, talking to other CFPs around the world, and also we will be dropping in on some new entrants who've just entered the financial planning profession, and we'll be checking up along the way on a regular basis with them to see how they're getting on. I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. And in today's podcast, we are talking about everything related to becoming a certified financial planner. But I am talking to a very special guest today whose journey was slightly different to everybody else's. So warm welcome to Will Oswald from Chiltern Hills Financial Planning. Hello, Will.
Hi, Jackie.
Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. And we have lots to get through. We're going to talk about your slightly more unusual journey to becoming a certified financial planner. But before we get into the detail of all that, I'd just like you to give us a sense of how you got into the financial planning profession.
Yeah, good question. So where did it all begin? So I started working for St James's Place Wealth Management back in 2016. So straight after university, having studied economics and finance, I decided I wanted to work in the wealth management industry. I didn't know a huge amount about it, but having spoken to a few people that did work in the industry, they always positioned it as a way of working in finance where you have more of a relationship with the end client, and it's as much people focused as it is being analytical and understanding the numbers. And that was really what interested me about wealth management versus other areas like asset management or investment banking or accountancy. So having got onto the graduate program, I spent 3 years on that program, and all whilst doing that, I also became a qualified financial advisor and went through the CII route, the more traditional route, to become a qualified financial advisor at the same time. And I also did a master's in wealth management whilst on that program itself, and then spent a couple more years working for St James's Place as an employee and an operations manager before moving into a financial planning role and having end clients and working with them on their financial plans and helping them feel more secure with their money.
Fantastic. So it sounds like, as soon as you came out of university, you just kept up that learning with, hands full with doing all the exams and a master's degree as well.
Yeah, I suppose I did. In a way, I think it's easier whilst you've got the momentum and you know how to pass exams and study and do pieces of coursework, it's just easier to keep that momentum going.
And so at what point did you find out about the CFP, and what made you decide that you wanted to embark upon it?
So I think having got the level 4 qualification, so for those not necessarily in the industry, that's the basic level of qualification you need to be able to give regulated financial advice in the UK. I'd got that, and it was through working with the other financial planner within our practice, Paul Bradley, who founded the practice, and he is a chartered or a certified financial planner himself. He was just talking to me about the different routes to becoming chartered and the benefits of doing so. And his belief is that one day we'll get to a place where all financial advisors will need to be chartered as the sort of barrier only increases. And so when looking at the different routes of becoming a chartered financial advisor, financial planner, I looked mainly at the CII or the CISI route. And to be honest, I really like the CFP approach or becoming a certified financial planner and chartered wealth manager, because firstly, it seemed much more applicable. So the CISI route seemed much more applicable to the day job, and the actual learning that you go through in doing the exam and then doing the coursework is actually quite similar to what you do on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of the technical knowledge you learn and then the application of that when you do the coursework for the CFP, you can use with real clients in your actual day-to-day job. And I think all learning is good, but it's only really great when you can actually apply it to your day job.
Yes.
And that's ultimately why you try and get better at something, is to be better at the job that you do. And in our job, it's advising and helping clients with their financial planning.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you embarked on the level 6 exam first and then on to the level 7 case study. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I did the exam first, and that was good at giving sort of, I suppose, all-round knowledge when it comes to all things financial planning. And that was probably more technically focused, I would say, on knowing the technicalities of the profession, whereas the coursework, in my view, was more the then application of the technicalities.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess the level 6 exam, it's quite broad, isn't it? It's not, not deeply specialised, because it's covering all the different areas of financial planning, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that does certainly come with its own challenges, because it is so broad. So the breadth of revision you have to do, the understanding of all different areas of financial planning is quite wide. But again, because no real client is the same when you're doing the job, having that breadth of understanding, I think, is a really valuable skill to have when working and advising with clients. So again, it's useful to have such a breadth of knowledge that you can then go and use with clients.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So you passed your level 6 and then you went straight on, I think, didn't you, to apply for the level 7 case study. So there was no let up, no foot off the gas at all.
Yes, that is correct. And in hindsight, that probably wasn't the wisest decision. I got the pass on the exam, and then you've only got a 2-week window in which you can sign up for the coursework. And me just thought, oh yeah, I'll crack on and get the coursework done as well, having done no prior research or not really understanding the volume of workload that it would require. Just decided to sign up. And then when I found out what was required, it was quite a shock, it's fair to say.
Yes, indeed it was. So then, what happened when you got your case study and then thought, yikes, how did you go about, what were your next steps straight away once you got your case study? What did you intend to do? And then what actually happened?
So I think, first of all, I took a deep breath and thought, okay, am I in over my head here? And then I decided to read all the material that the CISI provide. They give you a sample answer, I suppose, of what the coursework could look like. And that's really useful just to understand sort of the type of expectations they have around how you should present the financial plan you're producing for the client. I also spoke to a few other financial advisors who were already CFP, so had lived and breathed and gone through the exact same thing I was then taking on. And having spoken with them, read what I could on the documentation the CSI I provide, I decided to just give it a bit of a go myself and figure it out as I went. I unfortunately couldn't attend the 2-day workshop which Jackie runs because I was on holiday, I think. And so I just thought, I'm sure I can figure it out. I'll ask for a bit of help from other CFPs and piece it together. I'm sure it can't be that difficult. But then probably a month before the deadline, I then realised quite how deep over my head I was, and that's when I reached out to Jackie.
Yes, and I was quite surprised to hear from you, actually, 4 weeks out from the deadline. So we obviously you were too late to do a course, but you were kind of part way through building it yourself, weren't you? And trying to get your head around, what the sample plan was showing you, and then, the differences between the sample plan and your own case study that you had. So just tell everybody a bit about how we work together as an alternative to doing a course.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So I got myself to a stage. I must admit, it was definitely not even close to being finished. And I thought that it would be useful, to just get some sort of advice from you. And what we did was review the work I'd done so far. And you had kindly pointed out some bits that needed some work. And I think what I probably didn't realise going into it was quite how specific they are, and by they I mean the markers and the assessors, in what they're looking for and how they want certain things done. So one of the biggest, I suppose, pieces of the work, and if I'm being really honest, the biggest challenge I found was producing the cash flow model in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm sure, like many other financial planners out there, we typically use cash flow modeling tools like Voyant or Timeline that does a lot of that calculation for us. Whereas in the CFP coursework, you have to build a spreadsheet. And I think getting that right is key. The actual writing up the coursework is the easier bit, if I'm honest. It's getting that spreadsheet right. And that was really where Jackie came in and gave me some solid coaching on how best to produce that in a way that provides the clients with the right solutions. Because at the end of the day, this is, although it is a case study, you very much treat it like a real client is sat in front of you. What would you do to build them the best financial plan and make the most appropriate recommendations for them?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so obviously, because we only had those 4 weeks essentially, didn't we, for your first submission? Mm-hmm. What happened for your first submission?
Yeah, again, having started it by myself and not had sort of any training or coaching up front, we were always kind of trying to retrofit my spreadsheet and my coursework to fit the syllabus, and that came with its own challenges. And then when we did submit it, we did all we could, and given we only had 4 weeks, so I think that was 4 separate coaching sessions I had with you, there wasn't a huge amount of time, and we did as well as we could, submitted the coursework, got the feedback back, and I must admit I was quite impressed with the detail of the feedback that the CISI provide. It is quite detailed and specific in the areas of the coursework where you haven't passed, and some of the things that you should consider. So we picked up that feedback. Jack and I believe, I want to say, had another couple of coaching sessions. And again, that's just really useful, because I think, again, comparing it to real life, you quite often aren't just working on a financial plan and recommendations by yourself. You have a team of others, albeit you're responsible and you're the one delivering the advice, but you do have other people that you can work with. And Jackie was exceptionally helpful in helping coach me through that and make the required bits of feedback. And I've said it to her many times before, but genuinely without her, I would not have passed.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say so. And I think the amount of hours you put in, a huge amount of hours, obviously condensed, particularly in that first 4 weeks. Do you have a feeling of how many hours it took you in total to pass?
It's a really good question. And I would be tempted to say in the region of 150 to 200 hours. So I was trying to think about sort of how many days that was. And to be honest, it was more like the 200. If that was 5 hours a day, that's, a lot of days work. So I would say, about 200 hours on the entirety of it. So that was the first submission and then the second submission. But the bulk of it was in that first submission, I would say.
Yeah. And, and that's still in line with, what most other people, that's what the recommendation is, for expectations set by the CISI. So, but I think, obviously for when you look back now, looking at how you went about things compared to obviously, being available for that course. Do you feel differently about, you wish that you'd done the course, perhaps it would have taking you fewer hours to complete, or, just having a bit more structure around it in the earlier stages would have helped you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if I had my time again, I would have even postponed the holiday to attend the workshop. But no, all jokes aside, I definitely would have done the 2-day workshop, because I think, like you've just said there, it provides the structure and gives you a foundation on which to build your cash flow model spreadsheet and then put the coursework together. I was sort of operating with a blank canvas and figuring out as I went, and that just took far longer than it needed to. So yeah, in hindsight, I definitely would have done the 2-day course. I still would have done the coaching as well, I think, albeit I don't know exactly what the 2-day workshop would have entailed. But I just think with this sort of thing, the amount of hours that you put into it yourself, you're much better off spending the money on the coaching, on the 2-day program, because you'll save yourself tons of hours in rather than trying to figure it all out yourself. So it's definitely a good investment.
And I think also, when you're going through the case study, like you said earlier, you in real life, you don't work in a bubble on your own. So actually, if you wanted to, discuss a client situation, you've got colleagues to do that with. But obviously with the case study, you are in a bubble on your own, aren't you? So without any coaching, you kind of start to, turn your head inside out and back again, don't you? And you second guess yourself and doubt yourself, and all of these sorts of things come into play, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And there was definitely, and you can probably remember from some of our conversations, the self-doubt creeps in and you're second guessing everything you're doing. And because also there's no responsive live feedback. So again, with a client, you might talk things through and get direct feedback. With this, until you submit it, you don't get the feedback. And then at that point, it's too late and you might have to resubmit it again. So yeah, definitely agree on that point.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How I think sometimes just being able to have somebody to say it out loud to can make all of the difference. When you kind of go, I can remember that, during our conversations, you would kind of go, Jackie, this is what I've done. I think it's wrong, but this is what I think I'm going to do to fix it. And I can remember saying on a number of occasions that I know that you're getting it now, because there's one thing asking the question and saying, what do I do? But that second step of, this is what I think I need to do to fix it, what do you think, is actually, that critical bit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. It's just almost having a sounding board to go through it, because I can't sort of overemphasize what a big undertaking it is. Being honest, it is a big undertaking, and just having someone in the corner that's helping guide you along the way is invaluable. And I would caution everyone against just trying to do it off your own back.
Yes, no winging it, please.
No, absolutely not.
So we are nearly at the end of our interview today, Will, and I would just like to ask you that I know that you've got some points of things that you want to share with people. So for anybody who's out there who might be listening to this, who's thinking of embarking on their journey to become a certified financial planner, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, great question. And we spoke about this before. I think we've touched on it throughout the conversation today already. But I genuinely think it's about getting support and getting support from the outset. Don't try and do it all off your own back. Yes, you might save some money on not investing it in the coaching and the support, but trust me, it will be the best money you ever spend. So I think first of all, I'd say get help, and get help from the get-go. And by that, I mean work with a professional coach or trainer like Jackie. I mean, Jackie's got the CFP herself, so who better to learn from than someone that's got it themselves? So definitely do that. And second of all, I would speak to other people, other financial planners who've been through it as well, who've been through it recently, and just speak to them and get their advice. I really think you can't get too many people's feedback or points and tips before starting the journey. And then the third tip for me would be, again, don't underestimate the time it's going to take you. I would think wisely before embarking on the journey, because you do have to give it serious attention, effort, and time in order to pass. So I know, like many others, you'll be juggling your day job of providing financial planning and advice to clients. So just be mindful that this is a big undertaking, and to pass it, you do, I believe, need to take it seriously and invest the time and effort it requires to pass it.
Yes, and it is, as you say, it's, around the 200-hour mark, and you've only got 10 weeks to do it in, haven't you? So you can't just go, oh, well, I'll just leave it for this month and I'll do it next month. You can't just do that. You've got to give it your all right from, like you say, right from the get-go.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Absolutely. So, Will, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that you have given lots of advice to all of our listeners, and I'm sure everybody listening today will be really appreciative. So thanks very much for joining me.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Jackie.
It's really interesting, isn't it, to listen to different people who have different experiences of gaining their Certified Financial Planner certification, or maybe developing the financial planning profession at large. If you know anybody who you think might be interested in listening to any of these podcasts, then please do pass on our details. That's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. See you again soon. Bye for now.